Slide 1. Cybersecurity Risk Assessment of Team Canada in the World Economic Summit. Slide 2. The topics we are going to discuss are current security measures, weaknesses and mitigations of the security, attack vectors, attribution analysis, vulnerability matrix, and recommendations. Slide 3. Per NIST framework, the process has 5 steps. Identify the risk, protect, detect constantly, respond if any incident is noted, and recover from the damage and improve the cycle so it won't happen in the future. Slide 4. In current security measures, authentication, authorization, and access control is the key. This includes controlling the number 1, people, physical security, safety in and out of the building, education/training, threat awareness and response, general or individual, example, how to report if there is a blackmail, network monitoring, device accountability, responsibility of BYOD, and devices to avoid bringing. Slide 5. Number 2, technology. Hardware security. Keep regular updates of hardware and firmware and patches. Authentication of the devices before allowing to the network or premises. Install intrusion detecting software and firewall, and constant network monitoring for suspicious activity. Slide 6. Number 3, policy. Acceptable use policy needs to be reasonable. Password management policy, password complexity and frequency of change, access control policy, who is allowed for what, and remote access policy, restrict unnecessary email/communication policy, private not allowed in team computer, minimize private use for team email. Slide 7. Human factor weaknesses are poor password choices, mitigated by proper guidelines, social engineering and phishing attacks mitigated by awareness training, and to think like an attacker. Slide 8. In technology, instead of using rainbow tables, hash password storage should be done. Network mapping and system segregation is important also. Slide 9. In the hardware part, weaknesses can involve not up to date with evolving technology, misconfiguration, risks of bring your own device, and malicious devices. Slides 10. Would like to mention the attack vectors. That could be physical, such as rootkits, malware injection devices, physical tampering, backdoors, supply chain attacks, close access and near access attacks, and USB phone charging cords. Slide 11. Want to give some examples of why attaching external USB devices or charging phones on office USB ports is dangerous. The USB rubber ducky just looks like a thumb drive. It has a micro SD where a malicious payload is driven in simple script like txt file, which can be typed to system files, so when inserted, write the payload to the system files like a keystroke injection, as if someone is typing a new config file. So the payload is overwritten to the system file and the attack deployed. Other devices are USB harpoons that looks just like cell phone charging cord, but it can send and receive the data from the device attached in both directions in addition to charging. It has a concealed chip and can execute commands, copy files, and deliver payloads. Both of them cost around $10. Many newer devices are out, so it is important not to allow outside USB devices to be used in the work computers. Slide 12. Now we would like to discuss about attack vectors. The digital attack vectors are malware proliferation, email attachments, supply chain attacks, and backdoors. Slide 13. Employees can bring attack vectors knowingly or unknowingly. That is why it is crucial to minimize or totally avoid personal use of the office computers, to avoid attacks related to social engineering, phishing attacks, and downloads from web page. Slide 14. Vulnerability analysis and possible attack vectors in the summit to mention are: anomalous network activity was detected in the entire network of FVEY, so all the teams were affected. Following possible attack vector paths were considered. In terms of server, Canada's hardware is 7 years old, so does not have the security construction of recent years. Conventional BIOS is susceptible to attacks, uses HP Sure, so is partially protected. Slide 15. The server uses the Linux operating system. Since it is open source, attackers can exploit easily. C programming in Linux is prone to buffer overflow. Canada's server software version is 3 months behind the latest version, and one application is prone to DOS attack. It needs to be patched. Since all 5 teams were affected, the server and software is not likely to be the cause. Slide 16. So, the most suspected cause is the human factor. Social engineering is most likely. Uploaded malware via USB flash drives to all servers physically, or an upload attacking the entire network from one machine by a member participating in the summit is probably the cause. Can also be a Trojan attack that created a backdoor, possibly from email phishing. Slide 17. This is a busy slide that shows the vulnerability index. Slide 18. Recommendations. Here we will evaluate the risks. We'll mitigate if we can or accept if we cannot. policy risks can be mitigated. So, we should do constant reassessment of the threat environment and enforcement. Slide 19. For most technology issues like hardware outdatedness, we will just end up accepting the risk because of the short duration of the summit. Supply chain is hard to manage and not cost effective also. New technology is a challenge to keep up with and cannot be changing the hardware in a few days. We should just do constant backup and do not allow unnecessary devices. Slide 20. For people, we can mitigate some of the risks like limit the access control, do brief threat awareness and response training as necessary, and help as much as possible with physical security. Thank you for listening to this report.